Okay, the thing is that I've always been an art person. In fact, I think my dad told me when I was about 2 or 3, I actually first knew how to draw before I could write. Like,
Wow.
to the real question, how I made my first million. So they asked us to do like a business proposal. You know how these people work, all this organization, Ministry of Agriculture. So my partner at the time, we had to draft out, a business plan and all that plenty paperwork. And so that was, the whole project was worth millions, actually. So yeah, I think that was when they eventually made the first payments. I saw, hey, millions, man. Yeah, so I made my first million. Yeah, so it felt really cool. What do you call this thing? Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
It happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah, I experienced
at the start of design plus illustration equals Designstration.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome back to the Designstration podcast. And on this episode today, I have with me an amazing illustrator. In fact, when I get any opportunity, any chance at all to talk about my creative journey, my art journey, anything in that niche, in that line, I always love to reference more. You heard me quite a number of times if you've heard me talk about that point. This fellow always topped that list because he inspired me. In fact, at the time, he didn't even know he was my biggest inspiration into coming into digital illustrations. He doesn't even know that part. Like, he didn't know then that he was that bone for me. And he has been there. He's been supportive. He has been encouraging. He has reached out to me even via the DMs, telling me, man, don't give up, keep pushing. Even the works he posts is just phenomenal. It's no other person than the incredible Bolaji Olaloye, also known as artnerdX. Bolaji, it's really a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's an honor to have me here, and it's a beautiful thing, to be here, to talk about art and the whole thing, and especially, you saying I inspire you. It's something I always appreciate. People reaching out and saying this. It's one of the reasons why I do this.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, I've actually seen a picture of you drawing when you were a little boy. That was quite cute.
Okay.
How did you start? How did you start out into illustration?
Okay. The thing is that I've always been an art person. In fact, I think my dad told me when I was about 2 or 3, I actually first knew how to draw before I could write.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it's like him asking me to write A, I'll be drawing the A instead.
Whoa.
You understand?
Yeah.
So it was a little frustrating for him, but he just knew that, wow, this kid, likes art. So after that time, I started drawing on any surface I could find, the wall, everywhere.
Whoa.
And just like that, it became second nature to me. Then eventually my parents, like my mom and dad, they supported me throughout. And I decided to study it in the university. Although in secondary school, I was actually a science student. I was actually a science student, but I was mostly, looked upon, as the art guy, when they need to draw illustrations for biology and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do that. So one of my teachers, being my physics teacher, advised me to take arts in WAEC. So from there, I just went to study arts, and the rest is history.
History, wow. Oh, you actually studied art in the university?
Yeah, I studied fine and applied arts, computer graphics.
Which university is that?
Okay, University of Nigeria, Nsukka.
And they teach what you do, like the level of what you do is
Uh,
what it. No, okay, not
I
really.
won't.
Oh,
I
I
won't.
see.
I won't
Okay.
really say that.
Okay.
I won't really say that. But
Okay. Yeah.
okay. Of course, they give you the basics. But you still have to go out there and develop yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel most of my education was through online tutorials and all that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, with one of the key project that you've worked on that was very, very inspiring. In fact, I think this was one of those key things that also made me follow you back to back. Like I was looking forward to it was in
Okay.
2018. In 2018, you took on a challenge and you created a three you did a 365 days of
This is
art
5 days
challenge.
art
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
True.
You drew every single day. But what
That's correct.
what inspired that?
Uh, the story is actually a little funny, whenever I say, okay, you know, I've always loved art, art is is a form of like escape to me, just to feel all right, not just
Yeah.
something I love, you understand?
Mhm.
So there was a point, okay, I went through, I was served breakfast actually. So
Whoa.
yeah, so
Okay.
I was already okay, professional in the field. Maybe I think like 3 or 4 years experience or thereabout. So that period when breakfast happened, I just gave up on pretty much everything, even
Yeah.
art. I had like one of the craziest art blog, that lasted for almost 2 years. Like I couldn't create.
Whoa.
Yeah, so whenever I create something, I hate it. So at some point, I just my youngest brother Bumi, you must know him.
Yeah.
You might have known
Olaloye
him.
Bumi. Yeah.
That created the Nigerian
Yes.
creative
Well, Nigerian creative.
platform.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was the one that just kept pushing me that create something, create something. Then at some point I was like, okay, let me start again. So I just had to start from scratch. Okay, I started off with October.
October.
So
Yeah.
I tried to keep up. So from there, I was consistent, and I loved the way it felt, completing something, the whole
Yeah.
October thing. So I thought maybe I should push it a little further, and also to make up for the times that I've wasted,
Mm-hmm.
not creating art. So that was it. So January, I was like, okay, this is my New Year's resolution. I'll create art for the whole year, and that was it.
Wow. That's
And although it was crazy at first, you know, when you keep creating, then you're not getting as much interaction. There's nobody
yeah.
on the sideline, clapping for you. You
Yeah.
know,
True.
it's easy to just feel demotivated. But yeah, that was it. It just happened.
And during
And
during that period, were you also like working, like doing illustrations, commissions, and
of
making
course,
money? How did you
of course, I
balance it?
was.
You're giving us
Yeah,
illustrations every day, and you were
yeah.
still
That's
working.
yeah, that's one of the craziest part. But the thing is that I was very, very picky on the projects, that I,
Oh, I
I, I
see.
collect at the time. So if I check if the project is very time consuming, I wouldn't take it. And there are, just like as a creative, there are some jobs we do, it will take lots of the time and
Yes.
it's not
Yes.
you don't really get much pay from it. So
Yes.
anything like that, I avoided it. And at that point in time too, I was also still with my family. So I
Okay.
didn't have to worry about paying rent and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So I think I just had that privilege, to
Okay. Yeah.
turn down some gigs that I wasn't really down for. So that
Wow.
was it.
And how did you cope with electricity during that period? I mean, because I know
Hey,
in Nigeria,
that
it's
was
something.
the worst. That was the
Whoa.
worst, man. Like I anytime there was no lights,
Yeah.
I had to put on generator. In fact, my generator packed up a couple of times.
Whoa.
Like it was crazy. Or sometimes if maybe the generator is not working, I have to maybe go to a hotel, book for the nights, just to get electricity and create for that day. Because I've taken it up to myself that no matter what, I will
You're
do
going to
it.
finish this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it. I even lost my. I think the laptop I used for that whole year, it's even packed up. The fan, destroyed. It stopped working and everything.
Wow.
Lots of sacrifice.
Yeah, truly. And that project was just, I mean, it's mind blowing. It is. Would you say that's your favorite project you've worked on?
Yeah, a personal. Yeah,
Okay, for
it's a
personal one.
personal. Yeah, because I felt really fulfilled when I completed it. I mean, imagine doing something like that for every single day and not missing
Yeah, it did.
any day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Even the days when I was sick, I had to still create. There were times I was in sick bed. During this because
Wow.
you don't because the kind of art I was creating then it wasn't just sketch. Just I just sketch.
Yeah, it was
Most
full
of them were
framed.
full
Yes.
on illustration,
Yes.
fully colored illustrations.
Yes.
Yeah. So there were times I was in my sick bed and still creating.
Wow.
So it's like more like all or nothing for me.
Truly inspiring. What brought about the your brand name, artnerdX?
Okay, I
Why?
next.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you might be expecting some kind of deep, you know, um, deep analogy or
I would actually
something.
be thinking you're a
But
nerd.
yeah. While I was in the university, I was always concerned about creating art. Had no
Yeah.
social life. Me and my friends. You must have heard of Agbad Mohammed.
Yes, Muhammad Agbadi. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Agbad Mohammed was my classmate in university.
Whoa.
Etsubi. Yeah, you know Etsubi
Yes,
too.
I know it to
Etsubi
be.
Enuche.
Yes.
We're all classmates. Harrison,
And
Ifesinachi.
you all studied art together.
Yeah, we all studied art
My
together. We're all
goodness.
classmates.
Whoa.
In fact, we once lived in the same room before, like in the same house.
Whoa.
So you can imagine having such people in your clique. You can't just slack.
No, my goodness. Wow.
So yeah, I was always all about art. At some point, it was like I was even obsessed with it. Always going around my sketch pad. So some people call me a nerd. So I just decided to just flip it. Art nerd. Then I felt X sounded cool, so I just added it to it.
Wow.
That was
That's creative, to be honest. That's creative. That's really creative. Wow. I really didn't know you all, you, Etube, Muhammad Agbadi. Wow, this is
yeah. We're
brilliant.
all
And
we're all close friends. We came from the same hood. And it's always a thing of pride, seeing your clique, your guys,
yes.
all doing well in their respective
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
It's a big flex.
How do you stay inspired to create art? Especially when, creative blocks sets in, just like you've mentioned earlier. Right. What
Yeah.
keeps you going? And truly the reason I feel amongst the in many illustrators I know, you actually have a very solid background to answer this particular question, because especially because of your 365 days project that you kept going.
Yeah.
You mentioned about even when you fall sick, you were still drawing. NEPA, you the power holding company, you kept going. How do you stay inspired? How do you stay creative?
I think what I would just say is take breaks, man. Like, sometimes it might feel like you're a quitter or something.
Yeah.
That you're not productive and you're just there. But honestly, if you don't take break, if you don't recharge, there's no way you can put something out there. So
Yeah.
it's always important to take. And while you're taking a break, you can consume content. Like, I don't know about other people, but personally, what really works for me is that I consume other content. Like I play video games a lot.
Oh,
I
wow.
watch movies.
Mhm.
And also during those times when I'm maybe going through an art block, I also take the time to watch tutorials because there's always something new to learn. You
To
understand
learn.
me?
Yeah.
So yeah. So why consuming these things? Somewhere between the line, inspiration just comes out.
Yeah.
Also, you can just go to nature.
Mm.
I feel there's beauty everywhere. Like my most recent artwork that I posted, I don't know if you saw it, the one that went viral. It was actually from a place in the old street I was staying. You know, if you're looking at the place,
house.
it's looking.
I saw the house.
Yeah,
Yes,
the house.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking old. It's like a place that people will just walk past. You don't see anything special with such a place, understand? But I feel there are inspiration in these places, you know. There's inspiration everywhere.
That's true.
So these things put together just keeps me active, you know.
Speaking about that illustration, that house illustration you posted that went viral, that was too. One need to look not twice, not thrice, but 4 to 5 times before you. And I'm not trying to exaggerate, you know, the level of detail you put in. You need to look again and again before you realize this is not like a picture or a real house. This is actually a painting. And you do a lot of diverse art style. You do a lot. How do you do that?
Yeah, speaking of which, I think this is also related to the question you asked me previously. How do I stay inspired?
Yeah.
Starting out, if I'm to advise any young artist, it's when you're starting out, explore a lot. Don't just limit yourself to a particular area. So I think that really helped me a lot while starting out. So whenever I'm doing art, I've been doing art for some time, I can get tired of a particular art style. I just feel stuck. So I just decide to explore, try something else, a different art style. So at that point in time, it feels brand new to me. You get me?
Yeah.
It feels brand new to me. So with that, it's now pushing me to, push further, trying to see what I can achieve, while playing around. So that also helps me. So whenever I'm feeling stuck or I get tired of a particular art style, I try to develop a new one. Like I just try, So and why doing that? You have to understand that my previous knowledge of the other art styles I've been doing, they all add up to what I'm currently doing right now. Like if you look closely, you find bits of my some elements that were present in my previous art styles in this current one. Yeah. So that's it.
Theoretically,
I play around a lot.
Theoretically, how effective would you say the art knowledge you studied in the university has influenced and helped your career today as an illustrator? The theory part of what was taught.
Yeah. I mean that has been very, very helpful because whether you have an arts background or not, if you don't know your fundamentals, there's no way you can actually how will I put it? See your full potential. If your foundation.
Sorry, the reason I'm asking is because you of course you see when you mentioned that you studied art in university, I had to ask the kind of art you do, is that what they teach? Is that what was taught, right? Because if it's completely different, so that's what I'm trying to know is the basic thoughts. Yeah. Also.
It's actually completely different. Of course, when you're in the first year in university, they teach you figure drawing. You do live drawing classes. Things like that, color theory, and all those things. But digital art per se wasn't really taught. So just something we just picked up on our own and developed. Yeah.
And to do the kind of digital art that you do, one needs to know how to draw, right? Like it's a basic requirement, obviously. Okay.
Of course, you need to know how to draw.
Do you think the ability to draw is a talent that one is born with, or it can be learned?
This one is a little tricky. But if I'm being honest, talent is also a very big determining, a very big or major factor, that helps. It's like it helps you halfway through the journey,
Mm.
sort of, than
Yeah.
somebody that have no talent
No
of
talent at all.
of
Yeah.
that nature. You understand? So
Yes.
if
Yes.
somebody that is very serious, and decides to put in all the work, like study very, very hard, and the person that has talent just decides to just not develop themselves,
Just
the
relax.
person, just relax, because I mean, you must have okay, not like I'm trying to throw shade at anybody or whatever, but there are some people that their art skill or knowledge just seems stagnant, like they draw the same way they have been drawing right from when they were a kid or something, like it doesn't seem like it's improving, like there are some people that just feel comfortable in that zone. But if it's somebody that works hard, that's putting in the work to get better, constantly, obviously the person can get better than the person that was born with that talent. That's my belief.
That's great.
But,
that's great.
But having the talent obviously puts you a little ahead of the person that doesn't have the talent.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah. I really love how you balanced it. I love how you balanced it.
Yeah, a good head start, basically.
That's great. Yeah. Let's talk about the roadmap to being an illustrator, right? You've been doing this for years. All right. Even professionally, you've been in the industry for years. And your craft, your work precedes you, to be honest. It does. And I want you to curate a roadmap to becoming an illustrator for aspiring and even some, seasoned and mid these illustrators who are listening to this podcast. How would you give a roadmap? What would you advise? A roadmap to being an illustrator. You do this, you get these, get these tools, get that. Yeah.
Okay. If I'm to give my own advice, I would say first of all, learn your basics, like just learn your basics before you decide to, set a particular, how will I put it, a particular focus for yourself. Just learn the basics. And when
you say basics, exactly. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
When we're talking about basics, for instance, we are talking about figure drawing, learning your anatomy, learning how to work with basic shapes, breaking that the body parts into basic shapes, learn color theory, learn composition, learn the principles of art, those things, they serve as the foundation. So now when you feel you have like that foundation, you can now say that, okay, I want to do, because digital art as a whole is very broad. We have environment designers, we have character designers, we have prop designers, we have, things like that. So give yourself a focus. But, or let me just say, before you even get to that, I think it's best you explore, after you have your basic, explore these various areas. Yeah. You don't have to be very good at them, you understand? But just, have little knowledge of them, how they work. So by doing that, you will now find a particular one that appeals to you the most. Yeah. One that speaks to you the most. So that now pick that particular one, then focus on it. They always say that a person that learns different kick, becomes good, but a person that learns one kick, I don't know, I can't remember the way they put that. Yeah. Like someone, like a person that learns
maybe one particular different skills, is good, but maybe someone who learns one is really great, something like that.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So when you pick that particular one, you put your focus on it. You put your focus on it and try to just get better at it. And of course, people always talk about tools. The tools you need for this kind of thing. But what I would say is that start with whatever you have. Start small. Like for me personally, I couldn't afford a graphic tablet when I first started out, so I had to make do with a mouse. Imagine using a mouse to paint, do a digital painting.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and that used to be a big flex for me back then. Whenever I do a work, I would say,
you did this with the mouse.
Done with Photoshop and
mouse. Yeah, I think I've seen something like that you posted.
So people
before.
be feeling, people be thinking, oh, this guy is bad, this guy is bad. But it's not easy. But that was what I could afford. You understand?
Yeah.
So you can actually do just that. These better tools make work more efficient and
Yeah.
faster, but it doesn't really make you a better artist. So start small, start from whatever you have. So after that, when you have your niche, you stay consistent, post online, put your work out there, and definitely your audience will find you, And we're in the digital age. You don't need to have
True.
an office, where in an open place or thereabout. The internet it's more than enough, to get you out there.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really
So
great.
I think it's good to leverage on that.
Yeah. I really love how you also balanced the tools, right? The tools don't necessarily make one, to be pro at what they do, but in as much as you also mentioned, yes, tools are very important as well, but then you still have to put in the work. I really admire that as well. That's great. Let's talk. There's a particular question I love to ask every illustrator who come on this podcast, and the reason is because I have been privileged to, teach illustrations and share knowledge with certain people who are very, very much vested and interested in illustrations. And one of the questions they get to ask me is they feel illustrators are like the least on the chain when it comes to the design, so to speak, the design ecosystem. And which always leads me to ask this question, specifically within our demographics, specifically within the Nigerian Africa demographics, with your years of expertise as an illustrator combined with your personal experience, do you think illustrators have hiring opportunities compared to other design field?
Yes, I would say yes, because we are now in the digital age that pretty much everything we consume now is digital. We are always with our phones, computers, TV, and all that. So I think there is if you stay consistent and you are always making use of these various platforms, like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all that, and your work is good. Of course, I feel the that opportunity is there, to get hired compared to how it was before, and also to compared to other fields,
Yeah.
As a digital illustrator, it's the market is there.
Okay, that's great. Did you venture into illustration and digital art in general as in to let me learn this skill so I can make money from it, or you just basically did it because you really loved it?
Yeah, I actually just, in fact, the thing that actually inspired or that it actually motivated me, to go into the digital art of the thing. In fact, I never even knew digital art was a thing,
Funny because I never knew digital art was a thing until I saw your work. That's when I really knew digital art was a thing.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, yeah. Until I saw your work, that's when I knew digital art was actually a thing.
Wow. Me too. When I first came across digital art, it was my first year in the university. Before then, of course, I've been watching animated movies and that, but I never really knew how it was done.
Same
I
here.
never knew it was still digital art, and not like I actually wanted to, but I loved it, but I didn't really know how to go about it. So before then, I was more of a pencil artist doing portraits and all that. But when I got into the university and I met with some, like I said, my friends, Mohammed and all that, then we got to discover Photoshop, and then digital art. The whole thing just changed. I just knew, wow, this is what I want to do, with my life. And it was not really based on, okay, I'm going to make money out of it or whatsoever. In fact, I didn't even know at that point. I didn't even know I could even make any substantial money from it, But it's what it is. We just
true. Now, a follow-up question to that would be, when was the first time digital art made you money? Like, even if irrespective of how little it was, when was the first time someone paid for your service and you were like, whoa, so people can actually pay me to draw?
Okay, let me see.
I know it's way
I
long.
think I think I started out as a digital colorist before I even became
Whoa.
like an illustrator. As a
Mm.
whole, I was a digital colorist. And how it all started, I was Ife Snachi was drawing. He was very good at drawing. Like he was always drawing. So I used to take his line arts and color them. So we're having
Wow.
this partnership.
Yeah.
You understand? I mean, we are doing this for the longest time, like he would do the drawing like color. So that was his, that was, then eventually our work started getting some attention. So people would reach out that they want to, work on something, then work on
Yeah.
it together. So yeah, I think the first time it was a comic, I think it was a comic job I did, I colored a
Mm.
comic book and I was paid for it. I can't
That's
even remember when I said.
that's great. I'm
Can't
sure
remember.
it must have
But
been
I know
long.
it's yeah, but I know it was a coloring job. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And the big question: when did you make your first million as an illustrator?
Oh man. The big
It's
question.
the big
Okay. Yeah,
question.
okay, that's one. Actually that one actually it didn't that's really didn't really happen, early on in my career. It
Hmm.
was should I say midway. I think
Yeah.
I was already doing my NYSC then, and I got a call from somebody whom I've been working with for some time, but
Mhm.
we lost contact. So he was working with this Bill Gates Foundation, in partnership with Ministry
Mm.
of Agriculture. So he
Wow.
called me and that I should come to Abuja. So I went to Abuja and there's this thing called visual facilitation. It's still I don't know if you've heard of it.
I'm
You
not
know,
sure. I'm not sure I have.
okay, you're not sure. Okay, just like infographics, but this one is like a live event. As people are discussing or having a meeting, you're taking it down with markers and stuff. And other stuff. So that was what it is. So
Wow.
I was actually to the real question how I made my
Hmm.
first million. So they asked us to do like a business proposal. You know how these people work, all this organization, Ministry of Agriculture. So my partner at the time, we had to draft out, a business plan and all that plenty paperwork. And so that was the whole project was worth millions actually. So yeah, I think that was when they eventually made the first payments. I saw, hey, millions, man. Yeah, so I made my first million. Yeah, so it felt really cool. So yeah, so one advice I would give, about this, million thing.
Million. Yeah.
It's I know most illustrators and artists don't like paperwork and all these formal stuff, but honestly, if you want to make big bucks in this industry, you
Yeah.
have to. Personally, I don't even like it. When you want to work with some of these people, you have to make things organized. Have a business name,
Yeah.
um, all these business proposals and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Having your invoice, receipts, all those things.
Yeah.
It makes you appear okay, even though you're not big. It makes you appear big and very serious.
Hmm.
So with that, you can actually put a price on whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
With these big wigs, yeah. So that was it.
That's great. With the fast rise of technology, AI generated image, AI generated art, do you think AI will steal our work?
Yeah, this one is also a tricky topic too
Mm.
because honestly, when AI first started, I was thinking, oh wow, this is it's going to be a good tool,
Hmm.
to add to what we already have, to make work
Yeah.
easy and other stuff. But eventually, when I discovered the fact that AI actually works with data they steal from other creators, you
Yes.
understand?
Yes.
Like without without the adequate how will I put it
Information, prompt,
information and
everything.
all
Yeah.
that, you understand? Yeah, so I that is not that is very bad, you understand? It's very bad. So it's like them stealing from us and
Hmm.
regurgitating it out. So that
Yeah.
part I don't it's not good, So about it stealing our work, I mean it's already stealing our work now. But
Yes, it is.
but honestly, but honestly, it's here to stay. To be honest, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Because AI, can be applied in different fields. But
True.
a good thing will definitely have its bad side. But just that the bad side now is becoming too big.
Yeah.
But we just have to look for a way to just balance this thing, and the people who are handling this AI thing, they should find a kind of they should be some sort of regulation, that governs how they use information and see how we can work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Because,
go on.
Because honestly, AI is the future. It's here to stay. Because just like how we have digital arts today, people in the past that do traditional art, they just threatened by digital art.
Exactly.
You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So
exactly.
That's just it.
Yeah, truly. Yes, go on.
Okay, so like today now we still have this. I mean, traditional art is still there, digital art is still there. You understand? It's a matter of preference. One did not erase the other.
The other, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I strongly feel AI. I mean, this is technology, and we can't fight it. We're just going to advance with it, and we're going to grow with it, right?
Yeah.
But currently, there's a lot of damage it's doing to the art community as a whole, right? There's a lot of damage it's doing to artists. There was a time when someone posted Julie's work and on Twitter, right? Someone posted Julie's work and said, "Hey, come and see what AI did." Like, that was just so bad. Tagging, giving credit to technology for something Julie spent hours, months drawing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I also experienced the same thing with this my art that went viral now.
Really?
Like a lot of people, of course, a lot of people telling me that it's an AI generated image.
My goodness.
Down a real picture, you understand? In fact, I posted the process, the Procreate process.
The Procreate process.
And someone was telling me that this is not enough proof.
Can you imagine?
I should make a video of myself with a pen in my hand creating it.
Wow.
You can imagine.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, is that crazy? That's crazy.
I feel there has to be some regulations that has to be done to some point, because it's because the borders are becoming very blurry to some extent to truly trace. I mean, and it's still in its earlier stage, right? This thing will still be developed. It's still in its infant stage. And even if we go a little way back, at the time there used to be a very peculiar way to know, okay, this art was created by AI, because you would see the hands. I mean, in fact, when AI even started not drawing hands well, I was like, okay, so even artificial intelligence also have this problem that normal artists have, because I struggle drawing hand. I still find that difficult sometimes.
The almighty hands.
The almighty hands, always very stressful. You mentioned something about illustrators packaging themselves, having the paperwork, so clients can take them serious during negotiation. Yeah. I want to ask a question on that light.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it would be, how would you advise that illustrators should price for their works? Right. I've had DMs, and sometimes the questions that will be asked to me sometimes can be very confusing, that I don't even know how to help answer that particular question sometimes, because of how tricky the question may be. How should I charge? Should I charge per illustration? So how would you advise that illustrators charge for their works?
Okay. Because this is something I also struggled with, starting out, because
same here.
You being an artist, you're also like a business owner, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody have their experience is unique to them. But still, there are certain things you still need to know in the field, because obviously everybody can't charge the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I would say is that the way I started my own out, okay, if you want to charge the client, first of all, the question you throw at the client is this: you ask them, what is your budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the reason why I'm saying this is when you are not sure of what to charge for this.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
And okay, maybe you don't know if these clients can okay, maybe you're someone that is still looking for a job and you're scared that this client might run away if I give them a certain price. I
Yeah.
might be feeling like I'm overcharging them, So I think the best thing to do in that situation is to say, what is your budget? So when the clients now tell you their budgets, you can now decide to maybe add something to it, if you feel it's fair. But at the end of the day, you find out that whatever you guys are negotiating on still falls within the whole
budget scheme you created.
the whole budget thing. Yeah, exactly. So that's the number one thing. Then the second thing is that okay, if you're charging, like, okay, there are lots of illustrations, to be done maybe for a book, like a storybook.
Yeah.
The way you charge is the higher the number of illustrations, the lesser the price.
The higher the number of illustrations,
yeah,
the lesser the price. Can we use actual value of money to sort of explain that? Let's say, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be your personal rate, right? But let's just give, say, let's use, say, 10,000 naira as a figure. Let's just use something. Let's use money. Sort of explain that.
Okay. For instance, if you are charging, like, let's say 10,000 naira for one illustration.
Okay.
Then there's somebody that comes along and be like, I want to do 100 illustrations.
Okay.
It's I think it's more logical to, since the person is doing a very high amount, to give like to a discount sort of.
Okay, maybe 7,000.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but when they are doing something lesser, maybe let's say it's below 10 illustration, you still retain that.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
So in this way, it just gives the client that sense of understanding. You understand me? You get me?
Yeah.
That sense of understanding. Yeah. And that's just where I approach some of these things.
Yeah. How about clients, or someone who wants to pay by the hour? What have you ever experienced? Yeah.
I've had some clients reach out to me in that, but I mean, like Nigeria now, it's very hard,
Yeah,
electricity thing and all that. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's very difficult to work that way, especially if you're in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But I think, especially when you're working with a software like Procreate, there's usually this estimated time spent on a particular illustration that's there. You understand? So supposing, okay, you're charging like $30 per hour.
Okay.
You understand? So, and you feel such illustration with that level of detail is going to take you 15 hours.
Yeah.
So you not times that $30 by
15
hours.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So using a platform like Procreate, a software, that also helps.
Yeah.
Because it tracks
the time on its own. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The brush strokes you make and everything.
Exactly.
So it's a good way to start. When maybe you're faced with a situation where a client's asking how much will you charge per hour. So on your own, you will know the amount of time you spend on that kind of piece.
Yeah.
So that would give you a good starting point. Yeah.
In fact, specifically, right, for me, one of the experience I've actually had, especially because I'm in Nigeria and a Nigerian living in Nigeria, experiencing Nigeria, there was a time when it looked like I was lying to the client because NEPA was showing me shaggy, right? And at the time I was just starting out. How do I really make this person believe that I'm not lying on these things? And it's just hard. Delivering these things is just hard. Let me ask a question on, you mentioned something about book illustration. Let's talk about book illustrations. What's the process like to work on a book illustration? And let me give you an example. When you're talking about, you said they send a creative brief, you've read it, it's nice, you love the story, and you want to work on the project. How do you do it? Sketch, then they approve the sketch, then you work on the lines, or how do you do it? Because you can go on to draw something, you finish the whole drawing, and then you realize, no, I don't want this one. Or why did you give the boy a t-shirt? I want him to have a shirt and a tie.
Yeah.
So
I get.
Yes.
Yeah. in that situation, that's why they say adequate planning is very, very important. It's not good. There are certain steps. Everybody don't work the same, but there are just some important steps to take. When handling a project like this. First of all, you make your research. For references and all that. How you want the style you want to use. Different things like that. And of course, talking about style, if you're maybe you're deciding to go with a painterly style, obviously you will not charge the same thing with a cel-shaded style.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So this also falls under pricing your work. You can give clients different options. Yeah. So you can give them different options, just like different tiers. Like the first tier might be just flat colors. Then the other one maybe cel shading. Then the third one, highly rendered painterly style. That one will cost more. You understand? Or maybe if a client is saying, okay, your pay is too expensive, you can say, okay, you can try this other ones.
Okay.
So these things also helps in giving your clients option to work with you. So back to the processes. Okay, so after you must have made your research, the first thing is character design.
Okay. Yeah.
You can just pick out the major characters from the story, then you design them.
Yeah.
Just to give the clients a look of what a feel of what they will look like. You understand? So with that, they can now make some changes. That okay, I don't want this, I don't want that. So when they approve that, but before all this, I usually prefer to get 50%
upfront payment.
Payment.
Yes.
Yes. To keep you committed.
You're my boss, and you do 50%. Me, I do 70%. I do.
No. Actually, it depends.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends. Difference. It depends on the clients too. Like you can decide to just be flexible.
Yeah.
And it depends on the scope of the project.
Yeah.
So if it's a project now that's a long term something, you understand?
Yeah.
Maybe something that will take me like maybe 6 months or thereabout. Of course, I'll take like maybe 80%, 70%.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect me to take 50%.
Then waiting.
Six months time
exactly.
to get the other 50. No, it's going to affect you. You understand?
Yes.
So yeah, it depends on the project. But if it's just something, average projects, 50. Just 50 beginning, 50 at the end. Something that will just take maybe a few weeks or a month or something. Yeah. So you do the sketches that is for the character design. So they approve that. Once they approve that, then you move on to create sketches that is for each illustration. Just sketches. So you send to them when they approve it, and of course you let them know that they have limited amount of revisions they can make. Yeah. That any more revisions that is outside what you have agreed on, we attract extra payments. Extra payments. So of course, at that point in time, once they are aware of that, they'll be mindful of the kind of changes they'll make at that point. So after that, once they have approved the sketches, you now move on to the coloring stage. So and of course, and again, you let them know that when it gets to the coloring stage where you are doing the final renders, that any more
changes or correction,
involve extra
charges.
Of course, it will attract extra payments because it's now you now having to break the whole thing apart and all that. You charge for that.
Okay.
Because time and money.
Yes. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So that's just the process. So you just you should just take them through the processes. Don't just go out there and make a decision on your own. Take them through the whole thing. Make sure they see it. So after the sketch, they approve it. Move on to the colors, and after that, they approve it. They send your payments. Then you send the final files to them. And pretty straightforward.
That's great. That's really pretty detailed. What's the longest time you've ever worked on a particular project?
Yeah, I think the longest has been close to 2 years.
Whoa, you worked on a project for a whole 2 years?
Yeah, close to 2 years.
Wow,
the project should be out. It should be out next year. It's actually I think it's one of the favorite things I've worked on, and I'm looking to see. It's actually okay. It's not even a secret. It's actually a fella graphic novel.
Wow.
That should be out next year. Yeah. Wow. It's about 300 and something pages. A graphic novel.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been published by HarperCollins. I don't know if you've heard of HarperCollins
I'm not sure. I'm not
publishers.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, I think they are the same set of people with all these Penguin books and all that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
project took close to almost 2 years. Imagine just doing,
Wow.
seeing Fela for like almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years,
I
man.
mean,
You should
of
be able
course,
to draw him off heart right now at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. I'm not really the biggest Fela fan, but
Yeah.
during the project, I've learned a lot about him, as a person,
Yeah.
So, and of course, the project I worked as a colorist
Okay.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I helped develop this art style they use and all that, and it's
I see.
something I'm really looking forward to. So I think that's like my longest.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can imagine you, coloring and listening to Fela Jam behind the background, like
Yeah,
just feeling it.
I had to start listening to Fela Jams and to gain inspiration and all that.
Yeah. Wow. Close to 2 years. That's so long. Did you get bored at some point? Did you get tired
Yeah,
of
of
the project?
course. Almost like there are times. Imagine doing a particular thing over and over
Oh
for
my goodness.
you get. I mean, okay. Before this one, I've worked on a comic book that's like almost 100 pages. I was doing the colors, you understand?
Yeah.
And then I think I was still an undergraduate. Or more after I finished
With
that
school.
project, anything comic, I
Yeah.
just washed my
You
hands
just watched
out of it. Like I was having PTSD. Anything comic,
Wow.
I wasn't even taking comic jobs. I hated it.
Wow. Has there ever been a time when you felt like after taking on a project, maybe client has even paid an upfront, you felt like, my goodness, can I even do this? Am I sure I can
It
deliver?
happens, dude. I mean, it happens every now and then. I mean, what do you call it? What do you call this thing? Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
It happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah, I experienced
at the
it.
start of at the beginning of a project, you just start questioning yourself.
Yeah.
Am I good enough for this thing?
Wow.
Like hope I'll not fuck it up. Things like that.
Yeah.
It happens, but at that point in time, there's no going back. You just don't have to. You have to shut out that voice and get to work. Sometimes they say start scared.
Yeah, start scared.
So I start scared and find the courage along the line. The courage will come, from nowhere. So it happens. It happens.
Wow, that's truly
But
great.
even if it's good to start scared, take composure, but don't take the one way we go.
Your hand no carry. Yeah.
Where your hand will carry, start to break your back.
Yeah.
So it's still good to assess and weigh things, before taking on them, and don't give unrealistic deadlines. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to touch on this. I'm definitely sure you've heard this 1,001 times. I know someone that can do it for less. Right. When client says, I know someone who can do it for less.
Yeah.
Is it not just to open Procreate, or is it not just to this, that? How should artists and how should digital artists react to such?
It's something you can never avoid. You understand? Like it's usually happening, but that's why you have to create value for yourself. You understand? Work hard to the point where your work, if it speaks for itself, you understand me?
Yeah.
It speaks for itself, and obviously, there will always be someone else that will be willing to do it for less. But just don't settle for less. That's what I'll say. You've known the amount of years you put into
the work,
your skill and all that. So obviously, there will always be someone that will do it for less. Just stay true to whatever you're doing, and your audience will find you. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There will always be people that will be willing to pay for what you're doing.
Yeah. I truly believe that as well. I've experienced that personally as well in my career over the years, right? And I've seen that to be true. What advice would you give to aspiring illustrators who are wanting to get into illustration?
Okay, like I've said before, learn your basics. There's no shortcuts. So this whole art thing,
Yeah.
learn your basics, and of course, when you eventually start climbing the ladder, in your career, that's those lacking areas, those parts in the foundation that you don't have, you
Yeah.
definitely should. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So learn your basic, and also always how will I put it? Try to learn from others. Keep an open mind
Yeah.
and try to learn from others. You understand? There's nothing wrong with copying other artists that you are inspired by. That doesn't mean you should steal their work. I'm not saying you
Yeah.
should steal
Yeah.
anybody's work. Yeah, but I mean, of course, you can copy someone's art style. You understand? Borrow some elements from
Yeah.
people's work, and to find your own voice.
Mm.
You understand? And also try to leverage on the this digital age that we are. You understand?
Yeah.
Post your work everywhere possible. Don't always look at it that, okay, I'm not getting enough likes on maybe LinkedIn, I'm not going to post there. Post everywhere. You can literally get your big break from any of these platforms, and always stay consistent, because people won't know what you're doing if your work is not out there.
True.
You understand? Imagine someone wants to hire you and you don't have a portfolio to show. So always put out work, do what you like, create for yourself, and like I said before, your audience will find you. So
yeah.
And also in terms of tools, you don't have to get the fancy tools before you start. Start with whatever you can afford, and of course, the fancy tools are good. They make work efficient, and it helps you create faster.
Yeah.
But they don't make you a better artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great
I think
advice.
that's my advice.
Yeah, that's really great advice. It is. Speaking of portfolios, how do you create portfolios for as an artist? Take us through the process.
Realists that do pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But it's good to have a niche. For instance, okay, if Disney reach out to you now that they want a character designer, when you're sending a portfolio to them, it's going to be a portfolio about character design.
Character design.
You don't start showing them
background
backgrounds,
art,
a mixture of different other things. You don't have time for that. So you just go straight to the point. Put out okay, yeah, like I was saying, always in your portfolio, put your best works first. Because you don't expect these recruiters or creative director to start looking from beginning to the end of your portfolio, and imagine your best works are towards the end of your portfolio. You understand? And they might not even get to that point. So put your best foot forward, and always make your portfolio very brief. Don't make it too bulky. Just PDF file, few pages. Don't make it too complicated. Make things straightforward. That's just what I would say.
Yeah. One more thing also, I want to talk about art theft, right?
Okay.
I know this is something you've also experienced in the years of your career. You've heard about it, you've seen artists talk about it. How do you think this thing can be avoided and well curated? How do you think it can be regulated, if that's even a thing?
I think the most time I've experienced art theft was the advent of these NFTs.
Yeah, when NFT
I mean,
blew up.
obviously, it's a bit of a controversial.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
when it blew up,
Truly,
it was
it
a bit
is.
of a controversial area. You understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't really go into it, but I was surprised when I hop on some of these sites, I find my artwork there.
Whoa.
Understand? Someone is selling my artwork as an, yeah, of course, not one,
Even
not two, not three, not four.
Olamide also saw his own art being sold as NFTs as well. I mean, these things are weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when I tried to, reach out, there was no, I couldn't actually reach out, in fact, there was pretty much nothing I could do about it,
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any law whatsoever, regulatory body, in place for this kind of thing, Yeah. And then online, I mean, if it's online, like all these social media platforms, the most you can do is maybe call out the person, take down the post, and all that. But I don't think there's much you can do about it. People always steal.
Honestly.
And okay, and okay, you mentioned about Julie as well. I saw some of her
Yes.
ads. That in fact people were already printing and hawking them in the streets. You understand?
Yeah, she said that also on the
Yeah,
previous episode of this podcast.
things like
Yeah,
that. It's very sad.
it's truly sad. I wish there's indeed a body that sort of regulates this, because with the fast rise of we are in the digital age, and with the fast rise of
Yeah,
technology and everything, if there's AI, if there's NFT, and I think there should be a body that can well regulate these things, and you know save artists from this putting in the hours of drawing and working on their
yeah,
craft and their art, and not and being experiencing such. It's very very, it can literally lead one to depression. It's
yeah. I
it's quite
swear.
unfair.
Of course, it can.
Honestly, this episode has been very educative and very informative to me. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you for
Bolaji,
having me.
for
Thank you so
accepting
much.
to do this. I really
Yeah, yeah,
appreciate,
of course. I mean,
honestly.
because I mean, in the past, I don't really do much of this,
Yeah.
interviews and talking. In fact, I do turn
Yeah.
them down in the past, But
Whoa,
I think
I'm
in recent
glad.
years, yeah, I think in
Yeah.
recent years, I just feel it's something that's very important,
hmm Yeah. Honestly, I'm
Yeah. So
definitely
thanks for
hoping we
having
are
me.
going to do this again. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of
The
course.
pleasure
Yeah,
is all
thank you.
mine. Thank you so much. Yeah. Are you doing an art
Right.
exhibition anytime soon?
Yeah, with my current artworks that I've been doing,
Yeah.
it's that it's mostly the team is mostly focused around Nigeria,
Nigeria.
this
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm thinking of putting them together and hosting a I mean talks to a few people that are like,
Yeah.
thinking how we can,
Yeah.
have an exhibition. So yeah, I think
Ah.
in future
Yeah.
that's
Please
something I'm
invite me.
definitely
Oh,
looking
me, I'll be there. Oh. I'll
Yeah,
come
sure,
and
sure, sure.
come on. I'll be there definitely to
Yeah,
support
so
my
it's one of
boss.
those things. Yeah, so it's one of those things that's in the works, and
Yeah.
I want to just, I want to be out there more, like even at some
Yeah.
point, stop on, get have a YouTube channel for tutorials and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Honestly, these things are very helpful. They are going to be very very helpful to us, to the art community, the design
Yeah,
community
of
as well.
course.
And we really, honestly, I want to just say a very big thank you. Let me use the opportunity to say a very very big thank you to you, right? Specifically, your support in the art community, you inspiring us. You keep showing up, and that you because you're showing up to us, it's also giving us hope that yes, right, if Bolaji can do it, he did it.
Ah,
That's hope to us that we also can do it. Thank you so much,
um,
Bolaji. I really
I'm
appreciate it.
humbled,
Thank you.
I'm really
Thank you.
humbled by this. I'm
Thank
glad
you
I
so
could
much.
be a source of inspiration.
Honestly, I'm really glad. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode on the Designstration podcast with Ufot Ubon. If you enjoyed this episode, kindly leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You can also suggest a topic or ask a question by filling out the form in the description below. We also appreciate when you share this podcast with friends and other creatives, even as you make plans to join us again next time, as we bring you more insightful conversations like this. Design plus illustration equals Designstration.